The Patriots seem to have themselves a quarterback controversy on their hands. 1 year ago, Mac Jones was a rookie, and honestly, he was pretty damn good. He showed some promise, but he looked awful to start this season. He got hurt in week 3, and 4th round pick Bailey Zappe came in, and the 2 weeks we've gotten to watch him, he's looked pretty good so far. Zappe has done everything New England has asked of him, and all of a sudden, it seems like Mac Jones' job could be in jeopardy. Like I said, Mac Jones was pretty good his rookie year. New England really needed a quarterback. Cam Newton was supposed to come in and replace Tom Brady in 2020, and I can confidently say it was just a disaster. The Pats ended up drafting Mac Jones 15th overall at the draft, and it's safe to say that he was impressive. He jumped right in as the starter and passed for over 3,800 yards and 22 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. The Patriots went 10-7 and made it to the playoffs before they got absolutely blasted by the Bills. But regardless, they made it to the playoffs. Mac ended up second in voting for Offensive Rookie of the Year behind Jamar Chase, and he even made the Pro Bowl.
The fuck is that?
Impressive for a rookie nonetheless, but there were still plenty of lingering questions. New England didn't really ask too much of Mac. He was never really the reason that New England won, but he was also never the reason that they lost. He's a safe, but not really that exciting of a player. I mean, he's quite literally on a fast track to a Kirk Cousins career arc. Mac can make a lot of money in his career and be a good player, but I don't quite think he's going to become an elite type of player. Losing his offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, in the offseason may have hurt him a lot. I don't think many fans, myself included, have a striking optimism in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge calling plays. And it's been a rough year for Mac. Before the injury, Mac had played in 3 games, and it wasn't pretty. Just a lot of mediocrity. Week 1 against the Dolphins, Mac threw for 213 yards and 1 touchdown to 1 pick. And New England lost that game 20-7, which is kind of expected. As we know now, the Dolphins are damn good, at least when their quarterbacks aren't concussed. The Patriots then beat the Steelers 17-14 in week 2, a very boring and disgusting game. And it came with a very similar stat line from Mac, 252 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He's only played in 3 games, and the 3rd was just gross. At home against Baltimore in week 3, New England lost the game 37-26, and Mac looked rough. He threw for 321 yards and threw 3 interceptions. And in that game, Mac suffered a high ankle sprain. The Patriots had to turn elsewhere, and that was to Brian Hoyer, the 14-year veteran and 3-time Patriot. Hoyer got the start in week 4 against Green Bay, and then he suffered a head injury after just 6 passes and was replaced by Zappe, and he ended up playing solid. He ended up throwing 15 passes, completing 10 of those for 99 yards and a touchdown. The Patriots ended up losing in a close game 27-24 in overtime. But Zappe played fine, and it put him in a spot to start in week 5 against Detroit. Now, the Lions have been a very confusing team this season. Through 4 weeks, Detroit had the best offense in the league, but there's a caveat to that. They also had the worst defense, and the defense part was definitely true. The Lions lost 29-0, and Zappe didn't screw up. He went 17 of 21 with 188 yards and a touchdown. He did throw a pick, but context is needed a bit with that one. He hit Nelson Aguilar pretty much right on the hands, and he kind of did his thing, and it ended up being an interception. Because, you know, that's just
Aguilar.
I honestly can't believe that the Patriots gave that guy $13 million a season. It's still pretty unclear what the status of Mac Jones is, but even if he is healthy, is it really worth it to give him his job back now? Bill Belichick was asked, and he declined to comment. He said that there are a lot of hypotheticals, but he's going to take things as they come. That's a very Bill Belichick answer. He doesn't really like to show his cards. Remember last offseason when he continued to say Cam Newton was the starter, only for him to not even be on the final roster? Yeah, Belichick is a guy where you have to watch his actions and not what he says. And here's a fact. The Patriots drafted Bailey Zappe in the 4th round. He was actually the 5th quarterback taken at the draft behind Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter, Malik Willis, and Matt Corral. Believe it or not, Zappe had a better final year in college than all of those. Maybe even the greatest of all time. He had almost 6,000 yards and 62 touchdowns. Both are the most in FBS history. Zappe completed 69.3% of his passes and only threw 11 interceptions and ran for 3 touchdowns too. He quite literally put up one of the most prolific seasons in college football history. But yeah, it did come at Western Kentucky, so take that as you will. He also did only play 1 year there. He was at Houston Baptist for the 4 seasons before that, and Zappe actually transferred to HBU to follow his offensive coordinator Zach Kitley and his top wideout from Houston Baptist, Jareth Stearns, who transferred to Western Kentucky with Zappe. At HBU, Zappe redshirted his first year and then threw for over 2,800 yards and 23 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. He was much better in 2019. 3,811 yards, 35 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. His last year at HBU was that COVID season, so everything kind of got screwed up and he only ended up playing in 4 games. But he was fantastic in them. Over 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, and only a single pick. From how it's looked over the past 2 weeks, the Patriots might just have themselves a quarterback controversy. New England had a starter that they believed was their guy, and then he got hurt. Some new guy came in and ended up playing pretty well. Now, the question is whether or not Bailey Zappe gets to keep playing. The Patriots have obviously been in this spot before. Drew Bledsoe goes down in 2001, and the Pats turned to some youngster named Tom Brady, and that ended up being the start of one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports, certainly in the NFL. No, that doesn't mean that Bailey Zappe is the next Tom Brady. That's definitely not what I'm saying, don't get it twisted. But Bill Belichick has been put in this situation before, and he ended up taking the kid over a veteran who was literally in the first year of a 10-year, $103 million contract, which at the time was the biggest deal in NFL history, by the way. If Belichick picked Brady over that, some dude on a rookie deal, whether or not he was a first-round pick, doesn't really mean anything to him. Mac has proved that he can do what is asked of him often, but he is who he is. He's going to help the team, but he's not going to be the reason the team wins. And I don't think Zappe will be either, honestly. Neither one of them are these crazy skilled guys that are gonna have flashes of Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers. No. Mac and Zappe are both reliable quarterbacks that are going to be representative of the system that they're in. And if Zappe is hotter or playing better, ride with him. Even if Mac gets the starting gig back once he's healthy, don't you think for a second that we aren't going to be talking about Bailey Zappe all season. Every time Mac messes up or looks bad, everyone is going to be whispering that the Pats should bench him for Zappe. That's what New England avoided by getting rid of Cam Newton last year, but they can't escape it now. This Patriots team is not great. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not awful, but they are 2-3 and sit at the bottom of the AFC East. I can't help but think to myself how wild of a change that is from just a decade ago. Like, it's just wild for me to think that the Patriots are literally the worst in their division. They're behind the Jets. Meanwhile, the Bills are 4-1 and one of the best teams in football. And the Jets and Dolphins are both 3-2. Obviously, that all goes back to the departure of Tom Brady, but even more so, it's about the lack of talent, mainly on the offensive side of the ball. Now, the offensive line is good. That's been one of the biggest reasons for the success of Mac Jones last season and then Zappe so far. But past that, it's pretty damn rough. The number 1 is Jacoby Myers, an undrafted guy. Now, don't get me wrong, Jacoby Myers can play ball, but he isn't the number 1 on any other team in the league and probably isn't even the number 2. The Patriots tried to pay Nelson Agholor, and well, he's sucked so far. He looks better this year than he did last year, but still, I'm not really thrilled with how he's performing based off of how much money they're giving this man. They traded for Devontae Parker, and he's been invisible in all but 1 game this year. New England did sign 2 good tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, and they've done nothing. Well, Hunter Henry's done more than Jonnu Smith, but still, nothing in the grand scheme of things. The Patriots have tried their best to bring guys in, but let's also be real. Hunter Henry is the only guy that had a solid body of work before he got paid. New England has just given out bad contracts. The defense, though, is amazing. That's one thing they have going for them. But the offense is a mess, and they need to get it good as quick as possible. I want to wrap this video up by saying I'm a Mac Jones fan. Clearly, I'm wearing the dude's jersey. I love the guy, and I think that he can be really good for the Patriots in the future. He's accurate and has a decent arm. But with all that being said, he cracks and basically struggles every single time the defenses start blitzing him. Mac hasn't really been that great when he's been asked to use his legs to extend plays. But the thing I've noticed while he's been playing is that Zappe does do a pretty good job at that. Mac is good in his own regard, but Zappe's skill set is helping the Patriots offense right now. If Bailey Zappe makes the Patriots offense better than Mac Jones makes it, Zappe should get the start.